Wagwan, you Film Shrapnel posse. It's us again, Tobias and Craig. Today we're carrying on Video Nasties month with Dario Argento's Tenebrae. Hello, Craig.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. I'm much better now that we're not doing Cannibal Holocaust.
Yes, this film was a lot more tame compared to Hannibal Holocaust, and also
And
another
fun.
and fun, and another Italian movie. So two of the movies that we've done for Video Nasty season month or whatever have been Italian, which is interesting.
So far, maybe we'll do lots of Italian ones.
Who knows? Yeah.
And this is also the second Dario Argento film we've done. Obviously, the first one being Suspiria last year. I don't know about you, Craig. I think I like this one more.
Yeah, me too. I was actually thinking that I think this is better made as well.
Yeah.
With Suspiria, there's a lot of silliness happening. This just feels shot better, more organized. It just makes more sense as a movie, to be honest.
And again, you can see why this was banned, because it's pretty explicit violence towards women through and a POV of it as well. Like, you're being put in the body of the eyes of the serial killer. However, this is nowhere near as shocking as I thought it was going to be a Video Nasty.
Yeah, it's like we were saying in when we did Cannibal Holocaust, like 40 years ago, so much stuff was getting banned for just a bit of violence. Now we're so used to it, no one even bats an eyelid at it. So it's not too surprising. There was only really one part that I thought was okay, that's maybe a bit too far. Apart from that, most of it I didn't think was too fucked up. Actually,
No.
Now that you mentioned the POV, I'm immediately thinking of Black Christmas. There's also another reason I'm thinking about Black Christmas, because we also have John Saxon in this movie.
We do have John Saxon in this movie. I love John Saxon. Ever since I was a kid and I watched Enter the Dragon, I've loved John Saxon. And he always pops up in interesting movies. Like, he's in From Dusk Till Dawn as well, like for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a huge John Saxon fan. I love John Saxon. I did not know he was going to be in this movie. So that was a huge, happy surprise for me.
What's also interesting about him being in these movies is that he's never playing someone who's fucked up.
No.
Everyone else is fucked up, but he's always quite normal. It's like, how did he choose these movies? How did he choose these roles?
He's also in A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I guess not playing anything. He's not doing anything bad in that movie.
No, he's just like the dad of the main girl.
Interesting.
He's also like a policeman. But yeah, I love John Saxon.
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah, I was actually looking at this film a bit at Wikipedia again, as I always do, and I came across. So this is classed as a Giallo film, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
A what
which
film?
is like an Italian Giallo or Giallo.
I'm
not sure how you pronounce it. So basically,
I've seen it written down. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know this was a genre. But also Suspiria kind of fits in this as well. And there's a lot of other Italian movies that are like this. And this word actually means yellow in Italian, if I'm pronouncing it correctly again. And basically, it's like some kind of mash between mystery and slasher. So there is basically someone going around killing people. Who is it? We don't know. And at the end of the film, you kind of find out. So it's that genre, which is interesting. I hadn't heard of it before.
I tell you, the film this really reminded me of, I think I mentioned it to you before. I'm sure you've watched it, Don't Look Now, with Donald Sutherland and in Venice.
Yeah.
Another Italian slasher thriller. Um, there's a few. I'm pretty sure there's one with Christopher Lee, and they have to dub him because everyone else is speaking Italian, so they dub everyone for whatever reason. So Christopher
Yeah.
Lee's in it, speaking English, but dubbed with someone else's voice.
Yeah, I remember that bit of trivia. Did you feel there was a bit of dubbing happening here as well,
Loads,
awkwardly?
loads. If I didn't know what John Saxon sounded like, I would have thought the whole film is dubbed.
Mm.
But it is John Saxon's voice.
Yeah, he's actually quite recognizable with that. But there was one bit I did laugh, and maybe I shouldn't have. When there's that Italian woman in the shop in Rome, and she's stealing the book Tenebrae,
Yeah.
and she does say "what the fuck" like this, and it did make me laugh actually.
Yeah.
It sounded like they dubbed it in English, but using Italian people.
Italian act. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Shall we quickly sum up the movie really briefly?
Yeah. Go on.
So Tenebrae is a book in this world that it's popular. The author's popular. He's done some other stuff, sort of like a Stephen King, but people are calling this book too violent, too misogynistic, too graphic. And he goes to Rome, and when he arrives in Rome, he finds out that there's a serial killer that's being inspired by Tenebrae, and the woman who stole the Tenebrae book that you brought up, she's the first victim, and he shoves pages of the book in her mouth before killing her, and then leaves the author a note at the hotel room that he hasn't even checked into yet, which I thought was odd. So how do you know where he's staying? And then the police get involved. John Saxon is the author's agent. I forget the name of the author now. Peter, isn't it? Peter something.
Something Neil.
Let's call him Peter Neal then for me. But surely that's his name. It's obviously about the zeitgeist of violence within media. There's elements of it that really remind me of John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. I definitely think this film's had a little inspiration on In the Mouth of Madness, but obviously two very different films. But this one, I don't know, I really like this film. I think it's better than Suspiria. I forget what we rated Suspiria, maybe like an 8 or an 8.2.
Well, we had a bit of a disagreement on that one. That's one of the few times where we haven't really agreed. Because you thought it was really good. Because you were all these colors, they all mean things, and this and that. And I was like, I don't think that's the case. I disagreed with you. So I don't remember, but I would be surprised if we put it somewhere in seven territory, to be honest.
Well, I mean, no spoilers, Craig, but this is going higher.
All right. That's interesting. Did you recognize the music a bit at the beginning?
Well, yeah. So it's one of the movie soundtracks that I've listened to many times. You remember I told you that after watching Suspiria, I listened to the soundtrack a bunch of times.
Yeah.
When you listen to it on Spotify, this will come up after. And I do like this soundtrack a lot.
Goblin again.
Is it Goblin again?
Yeah, it's Goblin.
Really?
Or I think it is. Or at least I read something that maybe the band might have split by this point, and so it was 2 or 3 of the guys from Goblin that made this one. But yeah, same guys.
Oh, that still makes me happy.
Yeah. And I recognized it instantly. I didn't know it was Goblin. I had to look that up.
Same style, yeah.
But not even just that. It's this sounds so familiar. And I had to Google it. And it was so do you remember the band Justice? French electronic band?
Yeah.
they remixed this in 2 of their songs. I was like, I've heard this before. Like, I guess they watched Tenebrae years before, and it was Phantom Part 1 and 2. And if you listen to those 2 songs, you can hear it like mixed in. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then
All right.
I did actually
I'll have
take
a
a
listen.
break like halfway through the movie just to listen to the song. I was like, yeah, haven't heard this in a long time. So that was a nice surprise.
I will listen to it after the pod. I haven't. I can't think of hearing it, so I will definitely give it a listen.
Did you finish talking about the plot? We didn't, did we? Or did we not?
Oh, well, I mean the setup. I mean, like we'll get into the nitty gritties of it because there's a lot more left to talk about. So they're in. Yeah, you got this killer going around, Tenebrae killing. The author is being looked at as like an awful person for even having written the book. And he's like all upset because the book is inspiring like murdering and stuff. But you know what, right? So early in my notes, I've put that I think Anne, his female assistant, I thought she was going to end up being the killer from the get go. Like early on, I'm like, okay, I reckon it's going to be her. There's like the voice is like creepy, but there's like an effeminate sound to the vocal. So I was like, well, maybe it's a woman. And then she even like no sooner had I thought maybe it's a woman going around killing people, she then says to him, maybe it's a woman. And I'm like, well, I mean, I must have it now then. I must have got it. So I was sure I'd had the film sussed really early on. But then they ambush the killer at his gaff somehow. Like it's really lucky that the serial killer just so happens to be operating out of a house that a woman needed to break into to get away from a dog. Like just really circumstantial series of events that leads to the killer's whereabouts being uncovered. Really, really odd. Can we talk about that actually before we continue? This dog.
Go on.
So you've got this. She's the daughter of Pete and Neil's landlord's. Yeah, she's
hotel
the daughter
owner.
of
I thought.
Yeah, all right, the hotel owner. She's the hotel owner's daughter. She goes on like a random date. The random date drops her off in the middle of nowhere and says nothing. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is like a setup. Like that whoever was on this date with her must be in on it. No, he's just a random dickhead. And then she goes towards a park and this dog starts barking at her. And for whatever reason, she doesn't choose to just walk away. She chooses to pick up like a stick or something and then like have a fight with the dog through the fence. And it's like, well, no wonder the dog's pissed off. So now the dog's chasing her. I'm sure she could have gotten away without having to deal with that dog, but fine. Now the dog's chasing her and she happens to end up at the serial killer's house. And it's only like her holding up away from the dog, and then she just happens upon the room where he keeps all the pictures of his victims. That doesn't sound like a story, Craig.
No, it's very silly.
It's ridiculous. I loved it. I really liked it.
That dog is fucking determined to kill her.
Yeah.
It's that really dog is going like, fucking mental.
You say that, but I do have a note here that the close-ups where the dog is like mauling her, you can tell that the dog is really chill and just a friendly dog, and she's just screaming around it.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to give it a big cuddle.
There was also something a bit like that in Suspiria as well, when there was a dog attack that looked a bit naff.
But you know what? I think it's interesting how Dario Argento likes to use dogs as a sort of like movie monster. I do find it an interesting choice, like making just a random dog scary. Like Cujo. I've never watched Cujo, but I might give it a go. because I
I
like
don't
the
know it.
idea. Oh, it's a Stephen King novel that they turned into a movie, but it's about a rabid dog, and it's basically Jaws but with a dog. So yeah, I might give Cujo a shot. Anyway, so the writer and his mate decide to go ambush the killer, and he figures out that the killer is the interviewer from earlier in the film. And the mad thing is, it turns out it really is the interviewer. Like, you think it's going
Yeah,
to be a bait and switch, and it's not. He really is the killer. But when they ambush him, he ends up getting killed by someone. So we assume, oh, okay, he's not the killer, but this is the killer. But it turns out
yeah,
there's two killers. But like, I don't want to go too far ahead of myself. There's actually two killers. Now let's get into the nits and grits. But there are
okay,
two
yeah.
killers. End of movie.
Basically, uh, so that interviewer, by the way, one of the more interesting part of the film. Early, like not too early on. I don't know, at least 30 something minutes in, at least. He has like a brief conversation with him, uh, and because he's really into the film, a bit like, sorry, the book. He's a bit too much into it, and they do have a little conversation about. So basically, there is kind of a discussion in this movie, like about, I guess, the person in which you identify with, I guess, in a book or a film or whatever. And some people have said that this film is like Dario Argento addressing criticism of himself from his movies. And I think, like, so basically, Neil has been asked about like his, like, if he's sexist, if he like hates people that are different. Like, I think, like, they're, I'm not wording it
Yeah.
very well right now, but basically identifying with the killer as if like what the
No,
killer is doing, he is how he thinks.
it
And
was there's a gay character in the book, and then
yeah,
Peter Neal says, because the interviewer refers to him as like a deviant, like punishing
mm,
deviants, and then talks about this gay character, and Peter Neal's like, well, no, there's nothing in the book that makes the gay character like a deviant. He's, if anything, he's portrayed as like a really positive character. But you're right, like he only sees it from the perspective of the killer.
yeah, as if like the people are being killed for a reason, and you're supposed to identify with them. And then at some point, uh, he says like, look, like, the killer is a mad person. There's no logic to what he's doing. He's just crazy. Like, you can't look at it as if like what the killer is doing is something that you should identify with, or like there's a message there or something. They're just not right. They're just a broken person, basically, which I thought was interesting. And I think that's also addressing how Argento probably looks at the killers in his other films. Like, you're not supposed to identify with them. They're not a good person. The good people are the good guys. You
Yeah,
know, uh, I am not. I don't think the way that my killers think in my movies, basically, which is, I thought, was a good point to make.
but little do we know, he does.
Yes, which is kind of, no. I won't say it now. Maybe, I don't know if there's
Yeah,
something else you want. Are we holding
we'll
it back? Should we just say
yeah.
what's
Let's
happening or not?
let's save the let's save the twist for when we get to the twist, just in case
Okay.
people are like, "Oh shit, we should go watch this real quick." Um, so the woman who dies at the beginning, she's killed with 40 wounds. She had 40 stab wounds from this razor blade, and I believe the reason why this film was put on the video nasty list is because of seeing the killings through a POV of the killer, and we get to see like the hands, like, around their mouth, around their throat. It does, but they're very short-lived moments, though. Unlike Cannibal Holocaust last week, uh, they don't linger too much on the violence in this film. This film, I feel like the violence is very soft, but maybe that's just because Cannibal Holocaust has desensitized me.
Yeah. But I think
Um,
there are plenty. Can I also ask, Black Christmas, was that also put on the video nasty list?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Interesting, because that one also you see from the killer's point of view, and that one I find more disturbing than Tenebrae, actually. Like,
Really?
or yeah, I think Black Christmas is freaky as fuck. If you watch that film alone, in the dark, the lights off, you'll shit yourself. This film, I didn't find it so scary. You know
Here,
what I
I'm going to
mean, though,
get a
right?
list of video nasties up. Yeah. I know what you mean. So I'm just going to get some video nasties up. So the list, there's only like 30 films or something, 40 films. And so basically, for those of you who don't know, the video nasty list is like films that got banned in the UK. And
Who was
so
it?
what am I looking
Mary
for?
Whitehouse or something. What was
Black
her
Christmas.
name? There was one. There was one woman that really uh, heralded this movement in the 80s during Thatcher's time, who was really against profanity on TV and violence and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of stuff was like not allowed on TV in the 80s.
Maybe it was Thatcher.
I think it was Mary.
Well, I'm looking at the list. I can see Cannibal Holocaust. I Spit on Your Grave is on here. I have seen I Spit on Your Grave. Last House on the Left as well. I've seen before too. But again, those two are it's just very sexually violent. I'd say the violence in it, like the physical violence in it, is quite entertaining because of how horrible the film is towards this woman, that it's like when she gets her own back, like they really enjoyed it. They really deserve it, and you can really enjoy it. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm not seeing. Evil Dead is on here, believe it or not. There's a lot of cannibal movies: Cannibal Apocalypse, Cannibal Pharaoh, Cannibal Man, Cannibal Terror. I'm just trying to find ones that I've heard of. Driller Killer, I think I've seen that. It's not that bad. Quite like it. But while I'm going through this list, Craig, I'll tell you this. Tenebrae, quite like Cannibal Holocaust, I also watched on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah.
So these films are like...
am.
But
I really
why are YouTube allowing this?
Surprising. I guess, I don't know, did they ever put something in the description? It's for educational purposes, for film students. Otherwise, I don't know.
I watch it and then I get the fuck out, mate. I don't I don't want to watch it.
That's very strange.
I will say, one video, I didn't realize this was a Video Nasties list. I didn't realize this was in the Video Nasties list. Zombie Flesh Eaters is on here. Maybe we could do that next week.
Maybe, yeah. Let's discuss it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of this one. But yeah, I was just looking at into Mary Whitehouse, and it is who I thought it was. So she was like super conservative, and in the 80s, very influential in getting a lot of stuff banned, and she did have something to do with banning video nasties in the 80s. So she ruined 80s entertainment for a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people... I think she really hated the BBC as well, but yeah, bit off topic.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
well, yeah, in all fairness. It's
you
helped build a legacy for a lot of these films, though, in all fairness.
That's true. Maybe it made them more influential than they could have been. I was thinking, what did you think of like these dreamlike sequences? That I think we had 2 or 3 of them.
It's funny.
That were quite...
It's funny you bring it up, because that was going to be the next thing I wanted to ask you about as well. So yeah, for those at home, if you haven't seen it, throughout the film we get these like dreamlike sequences with like, there's one that's kind of like, it looks like the prelude to an orgy on the beach. but then it results in someone sticking like a 6-inch red heel down someone's throat. I mean, the thing is, I found these sort of dream sequences a little egregious because it just didn't connect to anything. And then when they actually reveal whose dreams they are, and it starts to make sense, it just felt like, I don't know, I didn't like them.
Really? I was thinking like how they filmed it and the sound they use. I quite liked the combination of it and the shots, like how they cut it together.
Absolutely, I really liked it's probably the best filmed stuff. But at the same time, it just sort of kept taking me out of the film, and then finding out at the end that they don't belong to the person I thought they belonged to. I found it annoying, but it's shot brilliantly, and I love the aesthetic of it. But it kept taking me out of the film just a touch.
I will also say that you find out it's supposed to be Rhode Island, and it definitely does not look like Rhode Island. That's definitely Italy. 100%.
100%.
I kind of liked them.
Yeah, they're not bad. It's just they kept dragging me out of the immersion, shall I say?
Yeah. You know what else I was going to say about as well? So I don't know if this is also like a kind of a thing about the genre, the Giallo film, or how you pronounce it. Every time, well, it's particularly towards the end, every time you think you know who the murderer is, they seem to get murdered, don't they?
Yes.
Like you have the blonde kid gets killed. Who else? John Saxon gets killed. And then we have a few. But if I list them all, then I'm going to kill all the suspects for the ending of the movie. But I did think that was interesting, and I'm wondering if that probably is like if this usually happens in this genre.
I imagine it does.
Where it's always doing this.
I mean, I haven't seen all of them, but yeah, it does seem to be that way. Unless it's a whole coven of witches.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to bring up one thing, Craig, and this is like the immature twat in me. So there's a sequence where there's these like two girls out on a night out, and they meet this guy, and then one of the girls is like, I want to take him back to our place. But it does seem like they have a sexual chemistry as well. So it feels like they are like a lesbian couple. But this girl still likes a Dickon every now and again. That's how it comes across in the film. But when she comes over to the table and talks to her, when she turns back, and I know this is so immature, Craig, I noticed that she had a nip slip. And
yeah, she did.
She did. And I kept rewinding it to make sure I wasn't going crazy. And I'm like, yeah, she definitely nip slipping here. 100%. And it's like, that's the shot that you use? You use that shot. I bet Dario Argento was like, oh yeah, there was nothing wrong with it. And then throw it in the film. Oh, we only need one take, darling.
But wasn't it maybe intentional?
I mean, I didn't think it was meant to be intentional. Maybe it was. This is the problem with Dario Argento, is you can never tell the things he does are intentional or not. You can never tell. Like, is he a good filmmaker, or is he actually a shit filmmaker that just got lucky a few times? Like, I think a lot of people could make the argument that Suspiria is actually just, as much as it is brilliant, it's a fluke. And again, I think this is brilliant, but I also recognize maybe he is a bit of a fluke master, because I've seen other films of his that I can't even remember the name of. They're that bad. Like sort of Yui Bowl level bad movies.
Oh.
So I don't know. I do like this. I do like Suspiria. I'd like to think he's an on purpose good filmmaker, but you never know. Now, Now, I will say though, so when the girls are back at the apartment, and for some reason, like they're just naked all the time. I suppose that's also a theme in these films. But there's a one-shot take, like there's a oneer across the windows of the building, and then it ends with like the murderer breaking into their apartment. And I really like this shot. And I feel like we all like a oneer, like one of these oneer shots. It's easy to appreciate. It's easy to enjoy. You can see the craftsmanship behind it. You can see how much work must have went into it. So maybe it's too easy to say that it's great, but it is great.
And again, this is something that he does in Suspiria as well. All these exterior shots. And was there actually in Suspiria also like a camera traveling from one part of the outside of a building to another part? Like
I do seem to remember something. I do remember something like that. Yeah, I think this one might be a longer shot, but yeah, I'm sure I remember something like that. You can tell that he directed both films. He definitely has a style.
Mm-hmm.
But this film's nowhere near as colourful.
No, I think he's moved away from that. I think because, well, Suspiria is dealing with witches, and this is more about serial killers. It's more real. Yeah. So I think that's kind of why.
But I will say, like, there was one kill where, like, a woman holds up, like, a bed sheet or something, and the kill is just done, like, just slashing the bed sheet. So it's more implied violence rather than explicit violence. I thought this one was quite tame. I'm surprised it's on the Video Nasty list.
Yeah,
I think I've seen worse. Like in the mainstream,
sure.
Nightmare on Elm Street, I would say is more brutal than this. So like, I can't imagine. I've only got John Saxon on the brain, but like, I can't imagine why this one would be considered too much for British television. But then at the same time, maybe it's the unashamed, the unapologetic satire of violence in media. I think they do. There is some really clever shit in this movie. There's really clever shit.
Yeah, I think back to what you said about is Argento a good movie maker? I think he is, but what I think it is that he's very experimental. He seems to be trying a lot of stuff. Like in every movie, it's almost every other thing that he's doing is trying to do something different, something new. And when you're the first to do something, I think you can look a bit stupid. Mm-hmm. But when you do it well and everyone starts copying you, then obviously you've been super influential there. So I think that a lot of stuff that he tried, like he has an idea, I want to try and do this that has never been done before, and he'll do it. And it might look a bit janky, but then other filmmakers will come and go, oh yeah, I see what he's trying to do there. Let me try and do that, but I'll try it a bit differently, and they perfect it. And like as cinema continues to evolve, those elements that people tried before get perfected and become kind of standardized in later films. So I think he is a good filmmaker. And I think you've hit the nail on the head about why this film was banned, because of the POV stuff and that level of violence. But yeah, today is not like that. I think
maybe to avoid like fantasy fulfillment for psychopaths.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Because the most violent part that I can remember is, well, not necessarily, kind of violent, gory maybe more, is when Jane gets murdered towards the end. So she's another suspect, and you're wondering about if it's her, because basically she's an ex-girlfriend of Neil, and she's kind of obsessed with him, and she flew all the way to Italy to kind of stalk him, basically.
It's definitely implied that she's a bit of a head case.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And
but you know what? I mean, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, though. She's not really, like, she never comes across as a bit of a head case when we actually finally meet her. She's just having an affair with John Saxon.
That's true. But isn't she only doing that to get closer to Neil?
Well, potentially, but I don't think they make it explicit.
Yeah, maybe not. But yeah, when she gets murdered, so basically she's in the house alone, waiting for Neil's assistant to come, isn't she? And she's sitting there with a gun, and basically her arm gets cut off through the window with a
Yeah.
big fucking knife, and blood just sprays everywhere. And it just goes right all over the wall. And I think, wow, that's very gory.
It was
For
brutal,
that's
wasn't it?
even that's a bit too much blood. I don't think there's that much blood in you. That's like Japanese gore level amount of blood just spraying everywhere.
But this is it.
It was.
It's fun. It's fun. It is fun.
It is a bit fun, and I think as she's like running down the hall, one missing one arm, I think the guy starts slicing her up with an axe or something. So yeah, that I think that probably is the maximum amount of. Oh, but there's also one other bit. But if I go to this bit, I'm revealing who the killer is.
Wow. Do we have to skip to that straight away?
Oh, I don't know. Tell me. Let me know if there's something you want to say. What's on your mind?
I just think we need to save it for that part of the movie.
All right. Fair play.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
It's funny you bring up Jane. I was going to say, isn't it? I find when we first meet Jane, it's like she's watching their hotel room from a car outside, and he's able to recognize her from that distance, sat in a car. I just thought that was odd.
yeah.
I don't buy that you can recognize someone far away in a car
But
from
to be
above.
fair, there is a lot of odd moments that didn't seem very logical in this movie.
Yeah, like the
Uh,
dog.
the big, not apart from the dog was like a fucking Terminator dog.
Yeah,
Uh, there was other bits like probably the biggest thing is uh, you witness a murder and you don't go to the police. This whole fucking thing about when
yeah.
Neil and the younger guy break into the garden because they think that the journalist might be the killer. They see him get murdered, and then they go home and they don't say shit. Like
Don't
that,
they?
just they don't tell the police. And when they go there, because the police guy that we haven't mentioned actually, who's read all these books and everything, basically brings him over, and he's kind of acting like he's never been there. And like, come on, how can you not do that? Like, also I think like if there are people killing, uh, if someone starts killing the way that you've described in your book while you're promoting it, I think that would probably freak the fuck out of you. And I think there'll be a huge media presence. But everyone seems really chill about it. Like, yeah, people
Well,
will just start killing like how they did in your book. Like, yeah, it's fine.
yeah,
It's weird for
I
me.
felt the same. I thought that they did tell the police about the thing because one of my notes is when they go back, when the young lad goes back to try and investigate a bit more. I couldn't believe that the police weren't there, like at the
Yeah,
crime scene, investigating the crime scene. I'm sure they said something though.
no, they didn't. I think they even said not to say anything, which was really nuts for me. But there was also other stuff that I thought was a bit silly. So do you remember a bit later in the film, he has a nice snog with his assistant on the sofa,
Oh yeah,
and it's kind of implied that they're like together, and you think, oh, probably they're going to screw now, and then in the next scene, she wakes up on the sofa, and I'm thinking like, so did like they sleep together, and then he made her sleep on the sofa after?
I
Like,
think
what the
they.
fuck? What a dick!
To be fair, I did notice that, but I thought they would have both, like in the throes of passion, just did it on the sofa, and then they both fell asleep on the sofa. But I don't know. Maybe my throes of passion are different to yours.
I thought he just went to bed after. Just left her there. I don't know.
I will say there's one bit when the hotel owner's daughter goes to the pad and finds the killer. She takes a bunch of the pictures, but then when the killer's chasing her, she throws the pictures back at him. But the way it's done, it looks like she's trying to use them to slow him down. And it's like the pieces of paper. I get it that she's throwing evidence at him to be like, look, I'm not going to say anything, leave me alone. But she doesn't say that. It just looks like she's using anything she can get hold of to slow him down. And it's like, well, when it's a bit of paper, it came off as a bit silly to me. I thought when he kills her, so I'm going back just a touch, but the axe in her stomach I thought looked really real. I did think that looked pretty good. But yeah, so let's talk about when they go to the house and they try and ambush the killer, and the killer gets murdered by a different person. So
yes, I like that house, by the way.
Gorgeous house. So you've got Peter Neal going around the front. You've got his young assistant going around the back. Definitely could have worded that better, but who cares? So the idea is they're going to pincer him in the... I could definitely keep wording this better, but I'm not going to. So they decide to pincer him in the back door. And so the young lad sees the interviewer. He hears, I killed them all. And then an axe appears out of nowhere and kills the interviewer. And then when he goes round front for the reach around, the author has been hit over the back of the head and knocked out. I can't give more details than that until later. But I did think in them. Okay, look, should we just reveal it?
Okay, you've got to this point. You can't do it anymore. Okay, go on.
Yeah,
let's reveal it.
So a little bit after what it actually turns out is the author. All of these flashbacks that we've been getting to like this murder on a beach, that was his first victim. And this is why he writes Tenebrae from the perspective of a serial killer so convincingly. He talks about murder being an act of freedom. So as it turns out, he is also a fucking head case. Even though you felt that he's been the victim for the whole movie, it turns out he's also a head case. So when he saw that there's a serial killer that's been inspired by his books, he saw it as an opportunity to get rid of John Saxon and Jane for having an affair behind his back. And then the Tenebrae serial killer will get the credit for his killings. So this is why he doesn't want to go to the police. This is why he doesn't want to go to the hospital after being hit round the back of the head. Because he is actually the second killer. And the interviewer was the first killer. That's the mad thing. Like, I was like, oh, he was the killer. The young lad remembers how the interviewer actually said, he was the one that said, I did it, I killed them all. Which leads them to the realization that the author is the second killer, and just getting rid of him to be like a dead surrogate to his violence, and he won't get caught.
Basically, yeah.
But that's
how it goes.
They do imply that Jane and John Saxon's character are going to end up being like the killers together. But then obviously when they get killed, and I pretty ballsy, right, to kill John Saxon. Like he's literally meeting up with someone like in a public area, purposely almost to be safe, and he still gets shanked in the stomach over and over again, and no one was a witness, and it's packed. There are loads of people in that area.
They make a big deal of how many people there are in the area.
Yeah.
They're like, he's scoping it out. There's two guys fighting over there. There's some lovebirds over here. There's some kid hiding behind a bench where I'm sitting. There's people everywhere. And it's broad daylight. It's a sunny day.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of mad.
no one saw a shit.
It's kind of mad that no one saw that. And you like, this is the thing, like, there's when Jane's waiting for Anne with the gun, like, I really feel the movie wants you to think it's Jane, because Jane also had the red shoes, and we know that the red shoes were there for John Saxon's death. But that death must have been the writer. It must have been Peter Neal. And then, yeah, Peter is the one that chops her arm off and hacks her up. But when he thinks he's hurt Anne, he gets upset, and it turns out it's just some random maid. Is it a maid, like a house cleaner or something?
No, it was the detective's assistant, or not assistant, partner. Remember the detective was working with another April. April, I think her name was. Yeah. I think he kills her by accident.
Bloody good.
And yeah, bloody good. And then I think at this point is where probably the second most violent, fucked up bit is, in my opinion, is where, so basically the detective is apprehending Neil, and somehow he gets hold of a knife and turns around and starts slitting his throat.
Yeah, so he kills himself.
It looks pretty fucked up. It turns out that actually he that was fake.
It's a fake switchblade with the blood squirt.
Yes, which was very, very specific thing. How do you get hold of something like that? Do you usually carry it around just in case you have to fake your death?
Maybe he does.
How often do you walk around with that?
Well, we know he's a psychopath. We know when he isn't writing books, he's killing people.
Yeah. But I just imagine, like, you go into an interview, it's not going well. Okay, guess I'm going to slit my own throat then and pretend I'm dead. Start a new life. I don't know. But, that bit, the suicide by slitting your throat, I think was probably the cherry on the top for why this film was banned.
It's a pretty good one. I thought the coming from behind you with the axe, I thought was pretty brutal. But I think my favourite shot from this entire sequence, when they come back in, they see that his body's gone, so we know, and then they find the fake switchblade with the blood squirt, so we know he's alive somewhere. And then he bends down, and the shot, like they just got the shot like perfectly angled, so when he bends down, it reveals that he stood right behind him, ready to kill him with an axe. Fucking love that shot.
Well,
yeah, fantastic shot. I thought this entire film was filmed excellently, and I don't know that it's on purpose. I hope it is.
I think it's a bit of a mix. Purposely well in some areas, some bits by accident, other shit not really thought about. Like literally, like moments after what you just mentioned, this shot with him bending down. So I can't remember exactly the events and how it happens, but basically there's this giant sculpture in the room that's got all these fucking spikes on it. It's just really out of place. There's no reason for it to be there.
It looks like the sculptures in the first Beetlejuice movie.
Yeah, and there's nothing else in that room like that. It's the only weirdly shaped, spiky sculpture thing in the whole room. And I was wondering if that was going to serve any use, and it does.
Well, of course,
because it's what kills Sam Neill later. Sam Neill? Is it Sam
Peter
Neill? Someone else? Peter Neill. Sam Neill is from Jurassic Park. Peter Neill gets, I can't remember exactly how it happens, but he somehow falls on it, and he dies. And it just that fucking sculpture served no purpose but to just kill him at the end.
wasn't it Anne coming in, like swinging the door open, and it for what somehow it projectiles all these spikes at him.
Something like that happened. I know Anne was there for sure. She came back in the room,
Yeah,
and
because she was
somehow,
screaming a bunch.
yeah, oh yeah, man. There's a lot of screaming in this.
Yeah,
Just women standing around screaming, and it kind of annoyed me a bit actually at points.
I
It's like,
agree.
come on, that's a bit too much. But yeah, it's a good film. I like this movie, but
Yeah.
it does have these certain moments that are a bit janky.
Well, I guess we better rate it then. I guess we're at the end, so we better rate it.
Yeah. Um, I don't know yet, really. I mean, see, I'm very much leaning towards a 7, but I feel like I give stuff a lot of 7s these days.
You
But is
do?
that a bad thing? I mean,
Well, if you
my
think it's
opinion
7,
shouldn't be influenced by how many other 7s I've given. If it's a 7, it's a 7.
exactly. Would it
So
help you to know what my rating is first?
no, well, okay, go on, give me your rating.
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
An 8.5.
Yeah,
Wow,
I really
that's
enjoyed
very
it.
high. That's
I
one
thought
of
it
the
was very
highest
good.
ratings I think you've ever given.
I know, like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was clever. I didn't see the twist coming, and you know, like I watched a film the other day with Liam Neeson called The Unknown, or I forget now exactly what it was called, but it's basically like a guy that's come out of a coma, he doesn't remember things. And I could tell what the twist was going to be within like 5 minutes of the movie. But I still had a laugh because it kept surprising me along the way, but the twist that I saw coming was the twist that was coming. With this one, I had loads of assumptions about the movie. None of them came true. None of them came to fruition. And for that alone, like, I just found this really entertaining. And I thought it was really well
Yeah.
made, really well shot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I fucking love John Saxon. So he was just a breath of fresh air. I think I gave Suspiria like an 8 or an 8.2. I think this is better than Suspiria. Maybe I'm giving this too high of a rating and I need to bring Suspiria down. But I think on the basis that I gave Suspiria an 8.2, I've got to give this an 8.5. But maybe Suspiria is better off as like a 7.7 and this is an 8. So maybe I'd be willing to do that. Make this an 8 out of 10, but I have to bring Suspiria down.
I don't know if that's to impact Suspiria. But I was going to say about an 8 makes sense for me too. Because, yeah, it's a good film. Everything more or less makes sense. There's a bit, but the silly bits here and there do bring it down a tinsy bit. But yeah, what I will agree with you on. I really do like it when what I think is when my expectations are subverted, because I really
Yeah.
get fed up of that. I watch so many movies and I get so bored when the same stuff keeps happening. So when something when I get surprised, I really appreciate that. Actually, I want to
Yes.
see something new, something I haven't seen. I don't want to keep seeing the same story repeated at me a million times. So yeah, I do also really appreciate the fact when you find something and you have no idea what's going on. So yeah, I think for me an 8 is good. I'll give this an 8.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick to 8.5. I did like it a lot. I can tell
very
it's not
high.
for everyone.
No, of course, but not many of the films that we watch really are. Would you like to know the actual rating?
I'm gonna guess a 6.
Probably a 6. Let's see. 7 actually.
Ah.
Ah, higher than I was expecting. I can see
Yeah,
why
but
some people might give this a 6.
I reckon that Suspiria is rated higher on IMDb, but I think this is
Let
better.
me. Do you want me to check?
Yeah, go on.
Have to find the right version of Suspiria because I think there's like 4 versions of it or something. 7.3 Suspiria.
It's like a 20.
So Suspiria is rated
It's
only
definitely a 20.
slightly more.
7.3, that's probably fair. I'd give this a 7.5 on that basis.
Cool, man. I like
that's
doing this movie.
Yeah, I like Tenebrae. That's a wrap.
Yeah, second movie, by the way, where it's really about it's discussing the violence. It's it's showing you violence, but it's also talking about it, just like Cannibal Holocaust. So I think we've picked some smart ones from these fucked up ones. But yeah, let's see where it goes next. I mean, we still haven't decided the next couple of movies to watch. We should discuss it soon. And
Yeah,
yeah,
let's do it.
I'm curious to see if they'll be as interesting as these two have been.
Yeah, I'd like to think that there's like an attempt at something artistic rather than just gratuitous nastiness.
Yeah, that's
As
what I was
they,
initially thinking this was going to be.
that's what I expected Tenebrae to be. But as they say in the movie, we are doing films where perversion and its connection to society are highlighted. And it's violent perversion, it's sexual perversion. There's so many shades, but so far this and Cannibal Holocaust, you know, highly exploitative of the female form. I wonder if that will persist. I'll send you the list, Craig. Maybe there's one you want to do. I still can't believe Evil Dead is here. I still can't believe Evil Dead is on the list. Because that's probably the most mainstream film on the list. That and Last House on the Left, and maybe I'll Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, I'm quite curious to see as well. But you have to bear in mind sometimes it might be for very stupid reasons, like not always because of violence and sex and stuff like that, but something else. I don't know, like it offended someone for some other reason. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see for sure.
There is always the risk of upsetting someone with these films.
For sure.
I mean, let's not forget.
All right, my friend.
Life of Brian, I think, was banned in some places.
Yeah. Actually, that was kind of what I was thinking, that if it was offensive to Christians, they might ban it. Because I think especially more in the 80s, people were a bit more religious, and there was more of like, kind of, at least like Mary Whitehouse, for example, who I brought up earlier, was very Christian. And I think probably if it offended Christians, like, okay, no, we can't do that. That's not okay. Yeah, Life of Brian was banned in lots of places. Also, another one I just thought of, Passion of the Christ. Was it Passion of the Christ? No, I'm thinking of the one, The Last Temptation of Christ is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, the Scorsese one.
Yes, surely should have been on the list, shouldn't it? That was an 80s one. That was a bit raw, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was banned though. We'll have to look it up. Yeah. All right. Well, that's us at Film Shrapnel, guys. I mean, you can tell me and Craig are not really sure what the next episode's going to be, but we assure you it's going to be something akin to Cannibal Holocaust, Tenebrae, or something else really bloody shocking. Maybe we will do like something like Human Centipede. I don't know. I'd rather not do Human Centipede.
There's also a more mellow direction I was thinking. We could do something like Videodrome, which I think is still quite weird and fucked up, but I don't think it's on this level.
I do love Videodrome.
We'll see. I've only seen bits of it. I haven't seen the whole film.
Oh, it's a masterpiece.
And it's Cronenberg as well.
It is Cronenberg. I think it's his best work, maybe.
Really?
Although I like it. I like most of the stuff he does. I also like his kid as well. Both of them are really good filmmakers. But yeah, I think for me, Videodrome, it's his most clever one. It's the one that gets you thinking the most, I would say. But then I really I love all of his body horror stuff. I also love History of Violence and Eastern
History of Violence is
Promises. I
Eastern
thought they were
Promises
pretty
is
good.
great, yeah.
And they're not body horror.
Yeah, they're very different from his other stuff.
Yeah, very different. So yeah, maybe Videodrome for the next
All right.
episode, guys. We'll see. Me and Craig will talk about it. But that will deviate from the Video Nasties theme. So we'll see. Maybe we'll just do like graphic horror commenting on media month. Maybe that's what we're actually doing. We'll figure it out.
We could. It could go that way for sure, but yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, man. Thanks for listening, everyone. We are Film Shrapnel. Definitely go and watch Tenebrae. It's on YouTube, and it's a fucking class film. It's really good. Bang it on YouTube. I wonder if all the films we do this month, regardless of how shocking they are, will be on YouTube.
I was also wondering that myself.
It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild that YouTube are letting this shit on.
I'm curious about how long they've been on, actually. We should definitely check that next time, too.
I'll send you the links when we're done. All right, guys. Well, that's it from us. Go check us out on all the social media platforms. If Spotify ain't your cup of tea, we're on everywhere pretty much. So go listen to us. There's no excuse. Consume us, please. Craig, do you have anything you want to say?
I think you've got it all there. Stay tuned for more Video Nasty, violent-y shit. If that's your cup of tea, plenty coming your way.
Hails to the yeah. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Film Shrapnel.